what are timelines? Why do you think they're so useful? Or why do you think exploring them is so useful?
Timeline is a first of all, let me say, first of all, all these things that we can describe that are in our head are not in our head. It's not like it's not like if we opened up your skull and I poked around in there, I'd see your timelines. Any more than I would see your beliefs, any more than I would see your values, any more than I would see, your goals or any. It's just gray matter in there. So the way that we figure things out are going on in our brains is the way we're doing things, but there's no hard way and hard evidence that that's what's in there. So the way we know that we have these things, like for timelines, for example, and I'll explain these to you, is that we all have a sense of let's see, if we have a similar reality. Now, some of us, as I'm speaking with you, you may not know or realize if you have a timeline. Maybe you logged on to this particular chat here to find out what are timelines, because you heard the word and you're familiar with the word. Well, the fact of the matter is that we use, in order to organize our memories, I'll make it as easy as I can, in order to keep our memories organized in our brains, and I've spoken with a couple of neuro doctors, but they don't really know necessarily how some things work, but they do know they work. And I understand that we store our memories in our brain, and we store future memories. I know that sounds kind of weird, but you remember what you're going to do tomorrow. So that's a memory. And then we have what's going on at the present moment. And then we have past things, past memories, past projects we may have worked on, or, whatever, past school experiences, things like that. But we organize those in our brains. So when I say organized, we organize them, first of all, in a space, like spatially. So I don't know how yours are organized, but let me give you a couple of examples. If you take a look at your life, basically, and I'd say to you, what are you doing tomorrow? What are your plans? Or what are your plans next week? Or what are your plans next year? Or what's your 5-year plan? All those things. You know where those are in your brain, but it's not like they're over here. You would think, oh, when I think about the future, and you're going to point in front of you, for example, to where that is. And if I said, oh, have you done this before? You go, oh yeah, I did it a few years ago. So you're going to point spatially. And you're going to do it like this out here. Even a lot of people do that, but it's what do we do with it in our head, in our brains? Now, the reason I really like timelines is because, from a business perspective, we use timelines. In other words, if we were working on a project, right, your boss might come to you and go, "What's the timeline on this project? What's the ETA? Blah blah blah. When is it going to be finished?" And you're going to look out into that future and have a projection. Things like this. This is what 5-year plans are all about too, which I always laugh about, because I go, 5-year plans are only good until the next big boom. And then when that next big boom happens, that 5-year plan just went down the drain. And, you're going to be thinking about what's our next 30-day plan, just so we can keep our heads afloat. But the fact of the matter is, you've got to do all of that in here with in your brain. So if you have a good idea in how your brain works and organizing time, I like to refer to it as, and then there's the present moment, by the way, which is, you'll hear people say, well, you've got to be in the moment. The best thing to do is be in the moment. And there's a lot of truth in that under certain conditions. But when I ask you different questions, like I can ask you questions for you to access things in your past. I can ask you questions to access things in your future, even though they haven't occurred yet, because you're planning them. But they're in there spatially in a location in your brain, and you will reference those spatially. Now, some of this seems like it's a little bit, esoteric in a way, but I can assure you it's not esoteric at all. It's a good way of knowing how people plan. What if I said, and even when it comes to priorities of things, like priorities are not based on time management. It's not based on time. It's based on priorities. And you can reference something in a timeline. Like if I said to you, tell me the top five projects you have. You might show me with your hands. I know it's a little difficult, on a screen like this. You might say, well, first I got to get this done, and then I can do this one, and then I can do this. Now I'm showing you what it is from my perspective, but you're showing me in terms of time. Well, I got to first do this, and I got to do this, and I got to do this, then I got to do this. Now, some people, when they describe it, they go, well, first I got to start this one, but once I get this started and I get to this point, I can start this project while this one's still going on. Now you know how they multitask, you see. So there's a lot to this timeline business.